Today at Veterans Memorial Stadium in New Britain, Connecticut, before a capacity crowd, it's the United States national team versus Guatemala. Hello, everyone. I'm John Paul Della Camera. Alongside me is Seamus Mallon. It should be an exciting day, hopefully, for U.S. soccer fans. The pressure is on for the U.S. Not only do they need to win, but they also need to be a little bit more creative offensively, Seamus, and score some goals. And we noticed that today there's a lineup change at the top.
Well, there is indeed. Eichmann is coming in to partner Murray up top, and I must say that's a very important move for them because you're quite right. They need the victory badly, very badly, but they also need to get some goals and have their goal average look good towards the end of the season. So I think that it's very important that Eichmann contribute, maybe not to scoring himself, but to creating chances.
Now, this is a very young U.S. national team. We've made that point several times. And in talking yesterday with their head coach, Bob Gansler, he was saying that this young team must learn to handle the peaks as well as the valleys. Now, the valley came in that 1-1 tie with Trinidad-Tobago because they had the game won until the closing couple of minutes. Now, the high may have come last week when they won that Marlboro Cup of New York.
And they did it in great style in Giant Stadium, beating Benfica and then Peru in the final. That really opened a lot of eyes around the world about the potential of American soccer. On the other hand, those were friendly internationals. There is nothing, I mean nothing, like World Cup competition, even at this preliminary stages. So today it's going to be a different matter altogether.
And you're going to see that kind of competition when we return to New Britain, Connecticut. Stay tuned for World Cup soccer action.
We're back in New Britain, Connecticut, and this is the lineup the United States will put out on the field today. Vanoli in goal, Windishman, Trichu, Banks, and Stolmeyer. A tough back four. Midfield, Brian Bliss, John Hartz, and Tabremos, and Zhao, Murray, and Eichmann up front. And Zhao and Eichmann will be the two, I think, to watch up there. Bruce Murray, well known to American soccer fans. Now on the Guatemala side, they have a good lineup indeed, too, packed with some tough defenders and a very good goalkeeper in Jerez and Davila, Matariegos, Monzon, and Ortiz at the back, and some experience also in midfield where they have a lot of creativity in McDonald, Ceballos, Funes, and up front Byron Perez is the man to watch along with Chacon and Rodas.
It's an impressive lineup, Seamus, for Guatemala, and the key for them is that several of those players, almost as high as 10, depending on who's in the starting lineup, all play for one team. As we look at David Vanoli and now Ricardo Jerez, those are the goalkeepers right now of record. And this is basically the same U.S. national team that won the Marlboro Cup of New York a couple of weeks ago. The only change is that Vanoli is in goal. He was nursing a thigh injury and did not play in that game. Instead, it was young Tony Miola that got the starting assignment. But the rest of that group is a group that beat Benfica, and I mean beat them solidly in the opening game, and then actually stunned the Peruvian national team by a 3-0 score. So their offense was in gear for that game, and they're certainly hoping that that offense comes through today. And the biggest change, I would have to think, is a player like Zhao coming in. Of course, Goulet's injured. He's got an ankle injury, so he's not here. But Klopas, who had been a starter, not in there. Vermes not in the starting lineup. So we talked about it at the top. Eichmann up front with Bruce Murray.
Yes, and as we look at Guatemalan goalkeeper Jerez, I think Eichmann is one guy who is going to be trying to do something against Jerez. Eichmann, of course, set up the memorable third goal in that great Canada series for the Olympic qualifiers a couple of years ago. And when Jimmy Gabara hit the winner, and there you see a look at this beautiful stadium here. It's a small stadium from the point of view of capacity, but it's a good playing field. The surface is very good. There's been a lot of rain here lately, as has been throughout the East and New England. But the field in pretty good shape. You see the conditions, temperature 79, humidity 76, but it feels a lot more humid than that, frankly. And a mild wind, they say dry surface, but on our way from the VIP parking lot through that field we came across, I don't know, I think it was a little heavy going there, but the field looks okay.
We should have a great one for you. Guatemala has not played a World Cup qualifier since April the 2nd. As we look at their big guns, Byron Perez wearing number 11, and he's the player to watch along with Raul Chacon. Those are key players up top for Guatemala. Your officials for today's game are from Canada. Gordon Aerosmith of Ajax, Ontario is your referee. The linesman, Adriano Brunetti. As we are underway, he's from Ontario, and John Foote. Angelo Bratskus of Norwood, Massachusetts, is the alternate official. Jimmy Banks with it, and Perez right on him as we get started here in New Britain, Connecticut. Better than 10,000 on hand. Some people are standing, watching the exciting action. This has got to be a huge event for this area. They've had other soccer games here. The Polish national team has come. In fact, they're going to be coming again later on in July. But this is the big time in New Britain, Connecticut. Look at the standings in the CONCACAF zone, and you'll see why this game is important. If Guatemala were to win this, they would be ahead of the U.S., and they would go in a second place in those standings. The U.S. has not played since that May 13 1-1 tie out in Torrance, California. These have not played in this kind of competition. And they never like it when the ball is played back to the goalkeeper. A very energetic crowd. We heard a loud ovation when the two teams hit the field. And hopefully we'll hear more of that all afternoon from New Britain. Now it's Stolmeyer giving it up to Brian Bliss. Bliss played locally here at Southern Connecticut State College. And it's getting physical in the opening couple of minutes. In fact, we've only gone a little bit less than a minute and a half. And we're already seeing Tepper Square Ramos in there.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if Byron Perez was in the middle of that, but it looks like number 17, Rodas, was the one who's going to be warned. Let's see. It might be a card. It might just be a warning.
Well, the U.S. must maintain their poise against a veteran Guatemala side. The average age for the U.S. in the low 20s, about 23 years of age. It's much higher than that for the Guatemalan side. They have a lot more experience, and they will do a lot of things tactically to try and disrupt the U.S. team. Ball sent in long into the penalty area. Eichmann couldn't turn on that pass from Murray. Here comes John Hartz. Draws a crowd. Hartz played it across. Murray, the shot.
Great goal by Bruce Murray. We talked at the top about how important Murray and Eichmann would be. But imagine our surprise to see this kind of an early goal, and so brilliantly taken by Bruce Murray after John Hart did not give up on the ball. It looked like it was out. Look at 3 men over there. He does well to get this crossover, but look at this great volley. Terrific volley by Murray, in by the post. No chance for Jerez. And the U.S. goes up in the early going after about 2.5 minutes. A tremendous start for USA. Here we go again. Hartz getting the good cross in, and we'll see the great finishing volley on the turn. What a tremendous volley. So some great scoring by the U.S. of late.
Well, as Murray did at the Marlboro Cup of New York, he has scored an important goal. He scored a big one in that game against Peru that really gave the U.S. a cushion. So the U.S. strikes first in the first couple of minutes. We'll get the official call, but John Hartz really, with that pass, beat at least 3 players that were close to the ball. Great effort from John Hartz, and Murray, of course, finishing it. The U.S. leads 1-0. We have 41:35 to play in the first half. And that ball headed for the far sideline.
Well, JP, up on the beginning of our show, we showed that great goal by Steve Pritchard against Trinidad and Tobago, where he took the ball in his chest and volleyed home. This was maybe an even more spectacular volley goal by Murray, because he had to turn quickly and do a very good job at just getting the shot off and on goal. And that makes up for the miss he had against Trinidad, where he had an easy tap in and missed it.
And you know, when he gave that clenched fist there for scoring the goal, that's probably what he was thinking. It comes back now to Vanoli. Murray becomes the first forward, or player playing at a forward position, to score for the U.S. in a World Cup qualifier this year. The previous 2 goals were by Ramos, a midfielder, and Tritchu, a defender. Murray again. Tell you what, Guatemala offensively has not really come across midfield. Guatemala brings it up to Perez. Up for Roldan, and now it's Perez again. This guy can do it all. This is his first World Cup qualifier for his country. He's been playing for Guadalajara for UDG, and he's had previous commitments, so he was unable to play for this national team.
Well, there's the scoring so far. Murray from Hartz at 2:08. And a very important early goal for the U.S. Although we remember the difficulty the U.S. has had with 1-goal leads. I'm sure they've learned some vivid lessons from some of those rough experiences, but they'll take the 1-goal lead anytime from, I understand, Bruce Murray from Maryland, playing in Switzerland as well, as trying to improve his game in the European context, and now helping out his American teammates with a fine opening goal.
And Murray, like his line mate up top, Eric Eichmann, played collegiately at Clemson. Guatemala trailing here 1-0 in this World Cup qualifier. From Veterans Memorial Stadium in New Britain, Connecticut, they tell us they could have sold as many as 15,000 tickets if the seats were available. And they've been sold out for weeks. Perez was fouled.
Well, you see the immediate pressure they put on Perez. The American team, like you, JP, has great respect for this man. And they put two players on him quickly and try to slow him down.
Right side in the overlap. It was intended for Davila. Cleared back the other way. Juan Davila likes to come up from his backfield position. Now at the back. Trebalos to the left side. Played long, and Trichu bangs it out. Intended for Raul Chacon. Ramos blocked. Roldan was in there. Linesman says offside. Well, I thought the referee was going to allow play to continue, but he did stop it. The linesman raised his flag immediately on the near side of the field. Here's John Stolmeyer, three-time All-American from Indiana, to Ramos.
Oh.
Beat his man and then was hip checked. Well, that's a National Hockey League move, not a World Cup qualifying move on that far side.
Yeah, that tackle in there by McDonald, unusual Guatemalan name. We have a young man playing for Guatemala also named Ed Westfall.
Former hockey name of the Boston Bruins, New York Islanders. Brian Bliss for Eichmann, number 10. Eichmann is crunched. I tell you, Guatemala is playing a very physical game in the early going, but right now they're trailing. And after giving up that early goal, maybe some of it like that is frustration. That's Harks that's down, and Murray comes over. Looked like Monzon may have put a knee in there. However, by the look on Monzon's face, he may have thought Harks was faking it. We'll check it out when we come back. U.S. leads 1-0.
Well, here's the action from a minute ago. You'll see Harks taking the ball away. As the whistle goes, he just stops here and stops, but you see the tackle coming in late on him by Monzon, hitting him just on the thigh as he was stretching that left leg, and that is a painful place to get hit. But Harks had actually stopped. He was just simply faking the kick, and I think that was really more an accident than anything else. Monzon did not, I think, deliberately try to injure Harks, but they did have contact. Harks is okay, and Monzon gets a yellow card.
Well, the referee thought it was serious enough. Monzon did not, but Harks, fortunately, is okay. He's been one of the more consistent players for the U.S. national team in the 3 games that they have played previous. A loss, a win, and a tie. And now Philip Zhao has a Guatemalan player upset. And let's see, the referee, Aerosmith, not a card, but a warning.
Yeah. Well, that was a bad tackle attempt by Zhao. He burst onto the national scene a couple of weeks ago, as you know, JP, up in Giant Stadium, and comes from a soccer family. His father was a pro.
Dad played for the national team of Ghana, in fact.
And the Baltimore Bays back in the late 60s.
Guatemala sending it forward. Windishman, who sweeps at the back. He's the captain in place of the injured Rick Davis. And Windishman currently the most experienced player, despite being only 23 years of age on the U.S. national team. David Vinoli, his thigh apparently not bothering him anymore. He's taking some treatments for it in L.A.
Well, this kind of challenge of the goalkeeper is really very irritating and totally unnecessary. Done there that time by the number 4 player, Ortiz, Alejandro Ortiz.
As we said before, they'll do anything they can to try and disrupt play so that you can't get things going. They'll cheat a little bit on the wall. They'll do things deliberately. They'll slow it down when they have to. They'll take the warning. They don't want the cards, obviously, but they'll try to disrupt the U.S. team. In fact, we were told before the game that the uniforms that they came out with, it looked like they were wearing almost the same uniform as the U.S. national team. And one of the players had mentioned to Doug Newman, an administrator with the team, something about the uniform color. And he said, don't worry, they'll change them. And they did. In the box, Murray to Ramos, and he's blocked. Hart. Nice idea, but he couldn't quite thread the needle. Murray was open for a moment. Trichu. Run over. And a foul is going to be called. Foul is called on Raul Chacon. And the U.S. will put it in play on the free kick. Windishman from Glendale, New York. 1-0 U.S. leading it over Guatemala. Philip Zhao plays for the Maryland Bays of the American Soccer League. Tackled, out of play by Monzon. And the U.S. will have a chance here. 34:03 to play.
Well, a lot of chopping out there, and both sides going at it, but Guatemalans really dishing it out a bit more, it seems to me, so far.
So
hope it settles down, JP. We don't want that kind of a game.
Stollmeyer will throw in. He does that as well as anyone with those long throw-ins from this side of the field. They've had some chances when his passes have been effective, especially in that Marlboro Cup. Guatemala will have the ball. They trail 1-0. The only goal was Murray's from Harks at 2:08. Just as people were really settling down in their seats.
More time wasting by the U.S. players there, which is equally irritating Eichmann and Bliss, the guilty partners of persons. And there's a really fairly aimless free kick by Guatemala. The game is really quite edgy and a bit ill-tempered, and there is enough skill on both these sides for it to be an entertaining game, and let's hope it begins to show us a little bit of that in the next few minutes.
Guatemala's won 4 of the previous 5 matches against the U.S. team, so they've got that in their favor. U.S. won back in 1988. Guatemala clears, intercepted. John Hart lifting it into the penalty area, and now Jerez cuts it off before Murray can get there.
Well, it's a good diagonal running there between Eichmann and Murray, almost setting up a chance. You see 10 fouls already in the game, and we've only played about 12 minutes.
And those are the ones that have been called. There's probably a couple more that could have gone on both sides that were let go. So it's been a little bit chippy in the early going. 32.5 to play. First half. U.S. leads 1-0. Back to New Britain, Connecticut. John Paul Della Camera along with Seamus Mallon. The U.S. leads 1-0 on a Murray goal at 2:08. The assist going to John Hart. Windishman will play it to Banks on the wing. Perez is there, and Bliss will help out to Windishman. Plays for the Albany Capitals of the American Soccer League. Headed down, and Guatemala will take possession. Funes. Long ball for Perez. And it's too long for Byron Perez. Funes, number 10, is a player to watch. One of the new stars and part of the new youth movement started by the head coach, Jorge Roldan, a former player for his national team. And a lot of sort of anxious, uncertain long ball play by the Guatemalans so far out of the back, sometimes from the back four, sometimes from the midfield. It's surprising that you do feel that there is some good interpassing talent among these players. They haven't utilized it yet. On the long ball, now Stollmeyer looking for Zhao. Davila after it, as is Murray. And the ball goes to Guatemala. We have just under 31 minutes to play. That, of course, is the unofficial time. Throw-in was intercepted by Stollmeyer. Eichmann to Murray. Nice back heel from Eichmann. Zhao on the cross. Eichmann the header. And it's too high, but a lot of imagination and creativity for this U.S. national team. And some surprisingly slack marking by the Guatemalan defense, both allowing Zhao to get free and then to permit Eichmann to have that chance in the middle. Good opportunity for the U.S. national team. They lead it 1-0. Harks is after it. Held, to say the least, by Funes. And now it'll be Harks putting it back in play for the U.S. The national team of Guatemala has not played, as we mentioned earlier, in a World Cup qualifier since April 2nd when they lost to Costa Rica. They've played other games since then, did not do very well in the tournament in Los Angeles, losing to Chile and Paraguay. Windishman again to Bliss. Bliss back from his injury problem, had a leg injury that caused him to miss the Trinidad-Tobago game. Up for Murray to Zhao. Philip Zhao. Good ball to Murray, and then it's knocked away. Zhao is very deceptive with that pass. That's right, and Murray usually does a little bit better, but Monzon did a good job to get it away from Murray there, but that's the kind of ball that Bruce usually does something quite constructive with. Unofficial time, 29 minutes, 10 seconds to play in the first half. There might be a little bit of injury time added on, but I don't think too much. John Harks went down earlier. Not for too long. Comes back now, Windishman from Trichu. Trichu not only scoring a goal against Trinidad-Tobago, but also scoring another goal in that Marlboro Cup of New York. Vinoli from Manhattan Beach, California. Wanting Murray in the air. Too long. Eichmann almost settled it down, and it's played back to Jerez.
Well, Eichmann trying to read Murray's flick on there, cutting in behind him, hoping to get it, not really able to control it when it came his way, but promising-looking combination work between those two already.
Ball played, intended for Perez. Banks is there, matching him stride for stride.
That'll be an important matchup, I think, if Banks and Perez find each other in some one-on-one situations. So that'll be a tough challenge for Banks.
U.S. loses it at midfield. On the right, it's Funes coming in. Parks breaking him up. Kept alive by Chacon, and Pritchard bangs with Funes, and play continues. Zhao for Eichmann. Murray again to Zhao. He can beat players, he can take them on. That time he lost it to Davila, and a foul coming back against Eichmann. The thing about Zhao, he may or may not be the fastest player on the team. Some might argue that, but certainly his first couple of strides are quicker than anyone else on the U.S. squad. And right there was a good example of a chance for him at least to beat someone one-on-one on that far side, but he was unable to do it. But I'm sure I'd like that opportunity again. Played up the left now. Perez against Bliss. Got to watch Perez because he's all over the field. Tough to mark him, and he comes up from that midfielder's position. Oh, Banks. Great play. Countering for the U.S. to midfield. To Eichmann. Taken down. The linesman had the flag up, but the referee has the foul. Out there, Banks showed some quickness there. And when I was talking about Chow may or may not be the fastest player on the team, the guy I was thinking about was the player who just intercepted. Jimmy Banks is from the Milwaukee area. Bob Gansler has coached him before, collegiately. Stolmeyer's pass for Ramos. Picked off and cleared out, but there's Banks again. Avoiding a Perez tackle. Cleared all the way back to Vanoli. 26:35 to go. First half, unofficial time. U.S. leads it 1-0 on a Murray goal from Hartz at 2:08. Sent out of play.
Yeah.
Last touch by Guatemala.
Well, Santiago is playing him nicely away.
U.S. still leading it 1-0 with a little bit better than 26 minutes to go. First half. U.S. leading it by the score of 1-0 on a Bruce Murray goal. At 2:08, John Hartz had the assist on it. U.S. will play it back to Banks. They have been the more creative team offensively, which might be a bit of a surprise because Guatemala has a lot of skilled players up front, some experienced players, players who have played on the same club teams, and they've not done much offensively as Perez takes it back against Banks. Good job by Banks to detain him, but it's taken back. Ceballos to Davila. Knocked away by Winderschmidt. Hartz after it. Cut off by Monzor, and then he was cut down by Hartz. Now the referee, Aerosmith, over there. If you missed out on the previous action, one goal was scored. The U.S. national team with John Hartz sending it across, and Murray with a great finish.
Terrific volley by Murray. Just turning beautifully. You see, he falls down because it could possibly keep it balanced. Pivoting on that left foot and then getting the volley off with the right foot on the turn. A terrific finish, keeping the ball down. Often that ball just skies over the top.
Long ball played the other way, and Jerez will take it.
And Bruce Murray smiling as well he should. He was jubilant, of course, after that goal, as well he should be.
He had a shoulder injury, too, in that Marlboro Cup. He didn't play in that first game against Benfica. If he's going to play the second game, then have a doctor look at it. And apparently it's okay because he's out there. He still has a cast on that left hand, left wrist area. But it's not certainly bothering him from kicking in goal. Hartz. On the left side to Zhao. Hartz missing on that return.
Good tackle, slowed things down. Yeah, the U.S. needs to get a bit more out of Tab Ramos in midfield. Some of the burden for distribution falling on Stolmeyer and Hartz, and they're not the two who are the best at that. They're fine, but certainly Hartz is fine, but this is a chance for Guatemala.
Out for Funes to Chacon. The shot far post. Tie in. 1-1. Guatemala scores.
very good finishing by Guatemala. Tremendous finish indeed. Player getting all the way wide open on the right side as the U.S. defense was a little short on numbers, and that was Chacon. Chacon beaten wide open. You see the cross is not cleared away very well, and the ball is touched out of Chacon, who is in a very good wide position. Trichu can't play the 2 against 1, and Chacon does the right thing, which is to hammer it far post. And it goes in off the post. A very good piece of finishing by Chacon. Vanoli might have done a bit better with this, frankly. He comes out, but he does not cover much of the goal, doesn't hurl himself down very much. Worried about the near post, as most goalies must. But gave, therefore, a lot of space at the far post. And Guatemala tied it up.
And a very jubilant Chacon celebrating in front of some fans. It looked like he was maybe taunting some U.S. fans right in front of the stands. But obviously very happy to get the equalizer from Funes. But remember, on that play, Perez helped to set it up in that air collision with Windishman. So he was a part of it. But Funes with a great pass, and then a superb finish by Chacon. And now it's a 1-1 tie. Ramos and Hartz ready for the free kick. John Hartz will bend it. It's broken up by the wall. A 4-man wall. Right back out. Stolmeyer trying to turn. Coming back. Guatemala. They would be very happy with a tie in this game. U.S. would not be, quite frankly. There's Perez. That goal has certainly woke up the crowd here, with several Guatemalan fans in attendance. Obviously very tough to measure in terms of an estimate, but you can tell by the ovation pretty strong in supporting their team. A lot of flags here from Guatemala as well as the U.S. Nationalism certainly in the air today. So it's a 1-1 tie now with 21 minutes to play unofficially. Chacon from Perez and Funes at 21-34.
Well, it took them 19 minutes to tie it up. You see their fans very happy. As well they should. They had not really, I think, even had a shot on goal prior to that that I can remember, JP.
I don't remember one either.
And they just played it very nicely from left side to right side. Trichu was found in a 2 against 1 situation and was really hopelessly outnumbered, therefore. And Funes did exactly the right thing, which is to draw Trichu and play it wide. And Chacon did, for him, the right thing, which was to hit it early and to the far post, and they got the goal out of it. And, of course, the left fullback at the time, thanks, not over there on this flank, watching Chacon, as Trichu had gone to see if he could close down 2 players.
U.S. throw in from Stolmeyer. Murray was in the air, couldn't get it. Coming back the other way, Guatemala. Cutting it back for Chacon was McDonald. Chacon tied it up moments ago from Funes and Perez. And now Chacon will send it back. Chacon scored some big goals. The game winner, in fact, in game 1 against Costa Rica, and 6 goals in Olympic qualifiers. So he can find the back of the net without too much trouble.
That game winner in Costa Rica was a penalty, which, of course, they all count. But Guatemala, as you mentioned, very happy with 1-1 at this point, and if the game ended 1-1, they'd be ecstatic, and the U.S. would be pretty disheartened indeed.
Still a lot of soccer to come your way here from New Britain. We're still in the first half of play, and we've got Funes down, and let's see what Gordon Arrowsmith has. The Guatemala bench is upset, and as we have an injured player down on the field, we have 19 minutes and change remaining in the first half. It's tied at 1. On goes by Murray for the U.S. and Chacon for Guatemala. It's a tie game in this World Cup qualifier. 1-1 is your score. John Paul Della Camera along with Seamus Mallon here at Veterans Memorial Stadium in New Britain, Connecticut. The game has been completely sold out for better than 6 weeks.
Another weak distribution from Hawks, but Hawks now trying to go forward and get into some space. The Stolmeyer sets up. As I mentioned, Zhao and Ramos are the 2 skillful players out of midfield coming through. Hartz and Stolmeyer a bit more defensive, but they can do some things too at the other end.
Witherspoon's pass incompleted. 17:56 the time remaining, but that is unofficial time. Guatemala will take it back.
Hartz did, of course, set up the goal. Oops. And there he is with a tough tackle, which is a bit too tough for Gordon Arrowsmith liking.
That's That's one way to slow down Guatemala, who appears to be picking up a little steam after getting that goal that tied it.
Yeah. Again, they're getting players open on the blind side, as you say, the side where the action is not at the moment.
Played across. Perez in there. Banked on him. There's the quickness of Perez, matched by the quickness of Banks as it goes out of play. Perez, such a gifted player, played so well last year in the Marlboro Cup of Los Angeles. In fact, right after that, he was so dominating. The Universidad de Guadalajara signed him to a contract. He can do it all. Shoot with his left or right, cuts from either side, fakes well, dribbles well. If he has a weakness, people haven't told me about it yet. And the U.S. team is going to have their hands full with him all afternoon, whether he scores or not. He already has one assist. Chacon, who had the goal. Double teamed on that sideline. Chacon will come away with it. Funes, top of the box. Headed out by Hart. Chacon miskicks it. And now Eichmann taken down, and Davila takes it away. Eichmann right back up to get it. And they're going to call a foul on the U.S.
Yeah, Solmeyer with a late hit. U.S. game very much falling apart at this stage, JP. After getting up that goal, they've lost all that kind of loose rhythm that they've had, and a large part of it is due to the fact that Guatemala is very much coming into the game playing with much more confidence, stroking the ball about more, having gotten that goal. They desperately needed 20 fouls so far, which is really pretty bad. Yes, it is.
This stage of the game. Long ball on the free kick. Vinoli calling it, taking it in midair. David Vinoli has played in every big game for the U.S. since 1986, with the exception of Game 1 in Costa Rica. That was a 1-0 loss. Incidentally, his backup for today is Tony Miola. Jeff Duback still bothered by a rib injury that he suffered in the Marlboro Cup. Serious enough to not have him suit up for this game.
Well, I was a bit, maybe a bit harsh on Vinoli in that goal he gave up, but I thought he might have tried at least to sprawl. Maybe the shot came a bit earlier than he expected, perhaps, but he didn't really do much more than just sort of wave at it as it went by the far post.
Long throw in. Murray thought he was being held, but they're going to call out the other way anyway. Guatemala, if you joined us late, tied it up on a goal from Chacon after the U.S. scored to really set the crowd up in a frenzy at 2:08. A look at our next qualifier, USA versus El Salvador. In fact, they'll be in El Salvador, and ESPN will have it Sunday, July 9th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And in fact, U.S. has a tough road ahead because after this home game, the next 3 are in foreign countries, and they'll finish it up later on in the fall at a site still to be determined in the U.S., and a lot of cities would love to get that game. Bliss broken up by Funes. That's a great play. Offside, says the linesman. That won't count. Waved off. Well, I thought there were 2 players offside, actually.
Yes,
for Guatemala.
Yeah, at least 2 players offside. Not much question about that whatsoever. Even the Guatemalan bench agrees with that one. You see him play the ball here between the players into the penalty area. And a little hard to tell from that angle, frankly, but because we can't tell when they began their run, right, just in the replay, but we could see it live that they had begun their runs before that ball was stroked into the penalty area, and they were indeed offside.
Long ball played the other way. Murray has Monzon all over him. The U.S. and Guatemala in a 1-1 tie here. Played up for Eichmann. On the cross, Murray, the header! Perez with a diving save in midair.
Well, tremendous work again by Murray, having to twist and turn in midair and get ahead on this good cross by Eichmann. And not a very good clearance by the goalkeeper there as the U.S. tries to win it back.
And now Banks in the air. Ramos, but whistles all over the place. Foul on Guatemala. And that would just add to the foul count.
Well, here we take another look at this. So you see the throw in, and it's run on too well by Eichmann, the first time turning volley, and watch this flying header. Doing very well to get it across, and the goalkeeper maybe making it a bit more theatrical than was really necessary. The ball was not had that much pace on it.
Perez in the air to take that. Murray looking very dangerous in that penalty area. Perez with it. Another U.S. team is playing today, the U.S. national B team, and they tied Korea 1-1 in the President's Cup in Seoul, Korea. Chris Henderson of Seattle, Washington with the U.S. goal at the 51-minute mark.
And that comes after an impressive showing in the tournament in France recently by that same team, where in the fourth place game, they shut out England 2-0.
Had a good result, too, against Brazil, was it?
Well, the under-16 team in Scotland had a tremendous result against Brazil, beating them 1-0. Unfortunately, things started to go wrong after that, and they got badly beaten by East Germany 5-2, and then a 2-2 draw in Australia eliminated them from further competition in World Cup under-16 play. Disappointing for the U.S. after that good start.
Ball played upfield. Two players going down, including Perez. Well, not Perez. This is Perez with the ball. Upfield. Monza. Blocked from behind. Sends it across. It doesn't get there. Tritchu is there. Sending it long. Eichmann. Trying to get there. He and another player collide. Diego.
Yeah, well, it's maybe excessively optimistic to play balls forward like that, 1 against 4.
Ramos wanted Eichmann, and off a deflection, Jerez will get it. Well, they want to get the ball to Eichmann if they can, I would say at his feet or maybe chest high, as Seamus. He's more of a midfield player. You'd think he'd have more of a problem with the balls played high in the air, although in the Marble Cup, he came forward and won a couple of them.
Oh, bad mistake by John Stolmeyer. John not having a good game today. There, the first touch was very poor. It got away from him. Then he had to recover it and fouled. And John Stolmeyer has said primarily a crunching midfield player who can go forward with speed that sometimes will surprise a defense, but that's not his main role.
On the free kick from just before the midfield line. We have 10:40 to go in the first half. Unofficial time. U.S. 1, Guatemala 1. Chacon knocks it back. Spinning around. Guatemala will play it back. Ceballos played it to Davila. They wanted Perez, but Banks cut him off. Well, if Banks is on Perez for a good part of the afternoon, win or lose, or tie, Banks is going to be one tired player. Because Perez is going to give him a workout no matter what. Vinoli wanting his players to go forward. This game in the Britain, Connecticut, being promoted by Mundial Sports Group, will become the premier promoters of international soccer games in this country, and may include the Marlboro Cup. Or Cup. Here's Murray. Coming across. Davila will head it away. List looking for it, and another foul. Those foul totals are going to be impressive to look at halftime. The shot totals may not be, or the save. Perez taken down by Banks, but the ball comes forward. Guatemala, that's 1 on 5. He'll need some help.
That's Rodas.
He's got Funes breaking in the penalty area, and it was knocked out of play. I'll tell you, he does well to get a corner there. 1 against 5, and he comes away with a corner kick. That's an effort. So a chance here for Guatemala by my recollection. That's their first one of this first half. Here's Perez sending it in and just missing in the air. Benoli was in there. Very aggressive play by Benoli off the line.
And poor defense by the U.S. on the corner kick with 2 players from Guatemala going over there, and the U.S. slow to react and get over and shut down that. So when you get 2 players on the ball on the corner kick, you've got to send 2 defenders out there and stop them, and the U.S. really took their time getting there.
Were they surprised, you think, Seamus, in that short corner? That's one of the few times we've seen that.
Well,
it's so quick.
Yeah, it was, but you know, you have to be ready for that sort of thing, and Guatemala wasn't planning it until they saw they had all the space.
Throw in for Tritchu, 2-time All-American from Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville. And he'll get another crack at it. On the throw to Murray, trying to get around Sarriegos. Zhao trying to help out. Helped out too much, and he fouled the Guatemalan player who was down on the field.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of acting myself.
Sarriegos down on the field. We'll come back. It's tied at 1. Welcome back, everyone, to the Britain, Connecticut Veterans Memorial Stadium. John Paul Della Camera with Seamus Mallon. It's a 1-1 tie in this World Cup qualifier. U.S. scored very early at 2:08. Murray scored from John Hartz, but then Chacon from Funes and Perez at the 21:34 mark, and that ties things up. And the U.S. play has gone down quite a bit, even before that goal was scored by Guatemala, but especially since Guatemala got that tying goal. And likewise, Guatemala's play has really picked up. They're finding the spaces, they're making better runs, and they're controlling more of the ball. I think until they scored that goal, they had very seldom even crossed the midfield line, and you and I couldn't even remember a single shot on goal. There's Benoli. Playing long for Eichmann. He can't get it. Murray looking. Settled badly, and Zhao almost cut that off. That's not the way you want to trap it, coming back towards your own keeper. But dodging the bullet that time,
Well,
was Monzo.
the U.S. team, though, needs a little bit more of an attack than just attack by accident, which is really what's happening at the moment, with hoping for sort of bobbles and mistakes by the back four of Guatemala. It's got to be a little bit more constructive and thought out than that.
Well, the Marlboro Cup game against Peru, when they scored that first goal, it was early in the game as well, and they kept coming and kept charging, but that didn't happen here after they scored the first goal. Of course, as we mentioned at the top, the competition's going to be a little bit different. They're going to kick a little harder here. They're going to play a lot more physical, and there's really more at stake, a lot more dollars if you qualify for Italy in 1990. Over Trichu it comes, and here's Chacon. U.S. must regroup defensively. Trichu blocked it out. A corner kick coming up, but that almost was disaster for the U.S. And their bench knows it.
Yeah. I talked about Banks being out of place on the goal, and more I think about it, I think Banks really is staying more on the far side, so it seems that the left fullback position is a bit uncertain at the moment. I don't know if Trichu really is not a wing fullback, but he's finding himself out here a lot instead of Bliss.
On the corner from Perez, far post side. Chacon got up there over two U.S. players who collided. That was Murray and Banks. Sent long the other way. Guatemala will intercept, and the U.S. will take it back with Stolmeyer to Ramos. Nice touch to Harks.
Just a bit too early.
Too far for Eichmann.
Yeah.
Now Jerez will go after it. But a nice job by Ramos, a well-placed ball to Harks.
But that's the kind of pass that Tab Ramos can do, and the kind of play they need to see out of him, that kind of pass that really breaks open a chance when there doesn't seem to be much of a chance when he's on the ball. But Harks, again, just releasing it a little bit early when he might have created a better opportunity for the pass receiver by taking another dribble and maybe drawing a defender and opening the space a bit wider.
4:35 left to play. Still in the first half, a 1-1 tie. U.S. scored first, Murray scoring it. Chacon got the equalizer about 20 minutes later. U.S. on the right side with Ramos. Trying to cross it for Eichmann. U.S. will get a throw in here.
It's a dangerous situation now with Stolmeyer in the long throw, but you see Ramos, as we said, doing a terrific job escaping the attempted tackle, and then his cross was blocked. Trichu up for this long throw in.
Sending it long into the area is Stolmeyer, but it's headed out by Guatemala. Bliss right back in and then back out. Windishman. Harks. And they're going to call a foul on John Harks backing into a defender, Davila. Harks not in agreement. Paul Caligiuri stretching a bit down on the U.S. national team bench.
Gordon Arrowsmith calling just about everything that there's any doubt about. I think he's anxious that this game not degenerate as it looked it might in the first 15 minutes or so.
There's Caligiuri. Stretching down below. Playing the last 3 years in Germany.
Yep, playing for Meppen in the second division and doing very well for them. Popular player there.
Zhao. Back away. Coming back the other way, this is Funes.
Excuse me, JP. Zhao's had no success with that old move. Good ball.
Play back, and Banks is there. Lets it go for Benoli. Less than 3 to play in the first half.
Funes, the number 10 player, doing a great ball. A great ball into the box there. Here comes Bliss.
Looking ahead. Murray. Right back for Stolmeyer. Ramos back for Trichu. Hart, wide open. Inside move for Hart. Stolmeyer flicks it. Murray shot. Great save. Perez with a save of the game thus far.
Great save by Perez and a quick shot and a quick turn and a shot by Murray. And I noticed that Guatemala tried to pull him offside, and they did not all work in unison and almost cost him a goal. This is great possession by the U.S., and Harks with a fine touch in here, and a nice ball by Stolmeyer, I think. But look at the turn there. Murray actually a bit more open than he perhaps even realized. There's Harks. Now you see him push it square. The quick turn, nice touch by Stolmeyer. And Guatemala trying to play Murray offside. Two players did, but the third did not. And Murray could have done a little bit more with that, but he did quite well.
Back live, Ramos. Corner kick, Perez.
Good
had
save.
to get that ball. If he doesn't get that ball, the goal is wide open, with several U.S. players having an easy crack at it.
Well, there's an interesting attempt. Perez was in the middle of his throw, and he suddenly saw the man was marked up, so he sort of continued and threw it out over the sideline.
U.S. says thank you. They'll take the throw in. Clock has been stopped here. The long throw, and Perez just got that. You can see how high and dangerous pitch you can be. Scored 13 goals coming up from the back in his collegiate days.
Very good ball handling by Jerez, and the goal for Guatemala. Very safe in the crowd.
Eichmann couldn't find it after that first touch. Referee glancing at the watch. Not too much time remaining in the first half of play.
Well, nice to see John Stolmeyer in that attack right away with a very nice flick into the penalty, into the box for Murray. John showing us that he's not just a hard player, but can do some nice, sophisticated things, as he did then.
Harks will throw in to Eichmann. Philip Zhao has had a quiet afternoon thus far. Knocked away by Davila, another throw-in.
Davila's really had his number so far.
Some experience versus youth there, with experience so far winning out. Jimmy Banks sends it back into the area. Pritchard is making his run, but the linesman had him offside.
A late flag, too, by the linesman. I don't know. Pritchard looked like he might have been in a good spot there, but the ball was too difficult for him to get anyhow, so it's pretty academic. As we wind down the first half at 1-1.
Jerez will be putting it back in play. And among the first half highlights, not just the goals, but that last save that he made on Murray was spectacular. Otherwise, the U.S. goes in at halftime with a 2-1 lead. Whistle sounds from Aerosmith, and that is the end of what has to be described as a very physical first half of play. Better than 10,000 fans in attendance, standing room only, here in New Britain, Connecticut. And after the first half of play, it's all tied at 1. Welcome back, everyone, for the second half kickoff between Guatemala and the U.S. national team. This World Cup qualifying game, and it's tied at 1. Jimmy Banks will have it. One substitution for the U.S. Paul Caligiuri has come in, replacing Philip Zhao.
Interesting substitution. That Caligiuri, a very experienced player. Not surprising to see him come into the game. But in an unfamiliar position, he's taking up this right midfield position. You see him running onto the ball here, where Zhao had been. So that will be interesting to see how he copes with that, having played much of his soccer professionally as a defender, a sweeper. Well, we're going to take a look at this great goal by Murray. Harks with a fine cross. Murray with a terrific first-time volley into the side of the net there. A terrific goal by Murray. And the U.S. looked to be in great shape then, but only to give up an equalizer later. Here you'll see the ball coming into Funes after the Winterton challenge does not win the ball. Funes very early takes one dribble, and then the quick touch over to a wide-open Chacon, and he gets it by Trichu and by Vanoli. And that was disappointing indeed for the United States. Here's Guatemala again looking dangerous.
Chacon and Perez working the combination well. How about threading the needle there? Banks couldn't block it. Perez played it in, knocked away. Intended for Rodan. And the U.S. will end up with the ball. That could have been disaster for the U.S. as Perez was working some magic with Chacon, the goal scorer. There you're talking before about Caligiuri in for Zhao. Caligiuri played a lot at the back as a sweeper, as a defender, but they like his versatility, and they're not afraid to put him in there, although it may be a little bit out of the position that we've seen him in more recently with the U.S. team. But I think his experience at this point is one of the reasons why he's in there.
Well, the U.S. team was afraid a little bit about allowing Guatemala to be in a good position like 1-1 here because they know Guatemala has the ability to kill a game. They have the skill. Let's see if they try to do it here. This will be throw-in against the U.S. Tough decision there. Bruce Murray not happy.
Remember, in World Cup qualifiers, there is no overtime or penalty kick. So you can tie after regulation, and each team will get a point. The U.S. wants 2 points. They've already had their 1-point game, the tie, in Torrance, California. So they don't want one here, especially with the next 3 games coming up on the road. Consequently, on the other side, Guatemala with a tie. They'll just be very happy to come out here with 1 point.
Well, this is going to be a yellow card to Chacon, who is just mouthing at the referee and complaining about all the calls. He's gotten a good goal, as you mentioned, but he goes in the book.
Chacon has a yellow card, and wasn't it Monzon?
Monzon earlier, yeah.
Yeah. So 2 of them, and you'd be out. So they've got to be very careful. Coming back is Chacon now to Byron Perez. Lifting for Rodat. And now Caligiuri plays it back to Vanoli. Paul Caligiuri, last 3 years, playing in Germany, West Germany, 2nd Division. He was the Player of the Year for the U.S. national team in 1986.
Ooh, bad ball by Paul. And he, I don't know, he just doesn't look quite settled into that position. But as you mentioned, he really does have enough skill and now experience in the game to be able to take advantage of that. He's almost playing a right fullback position at the moment now.
On the return from Chacon, it goes out of play. And the U.S. will have a throw-in coming up. They've had success today when they've been able to find Murray, not just because he has the 1 goal, but he's had 2 other great chances to score goals, an obvious handball. And Gordon Arrowsmith right there to make the call. When they've been able to play the ball to Murray, though, he has been effective. Stolmeyer will put it in play. Eichmann now to Bliss. John Hart. Stolmeyer may crack it from there, and he does, but it goes wide. And a goal kick coming up for Jerez.
Well, you don't mind seeing John Stolmeyer wind up and take a long-range shot like that because he does have a lot of power and can hit him from out there. Didn't quite get what he wanted on that one.
Hoping there to use the element of surprise, but it didn't work. Caligiuri. Now for Eichmann. Plays with the American Soccer League Fort Lauderdale Strikers. It's really his home team. He grew up in Margate, Florida.
Good play by Eichmann, setting up Caligiuri for Stolmeyer. Ooh.
Eichmann, though, worked hard to get it back. He and Stolmeyer combined. Eichmann now to Ramos. Great job to Stolmeyer. Hooks it left. Bliss. And cleared out. And that's one of the prettier combinations we've seen all day from either side.
Well, this is the reason why we keep saying over and over again that the U.S. can play. They can now getting a position where they can play good soccer. You see Eichmann holding the ball and then finally getting it away. Nice to see 2 players. Now watch this clever little flick by Ramos. It sets up Stolmeyer, and he puts in a good cross to Bliss. And Bliss cannot quite get it in exactly to where he would like to Murray, but still a very, very fine piece of work all around by the United States and very satisfying to the viewers here.
39-23 to play unofficially in the 2nd half. Tied up at 1 apiece. Guatemala, a team that has not played a World Cup qualifier since April the 2nd, so it's been a while for them. U.S. playing in Los Angeles back a few weeks on May the 13th, that 1-1 tie with Trinidad and Tobago. Here's Felix McDonald. Wanted Funes, but Bliss denied him. Hart can't get by Davila.
Good try by John there, stretching to try to win that one.
Zone long, and that's too long. Goes into the press area, the auxiliary press area that they built here. It is still tied at 1 from New Britain, Connecticut. Back at Veterans Memorial Stadium, it's a 1-1 tie here in New Britain, Connecticut. And that ball is last touched. Rodas got a piece of it, but the U.S. touched it last. There's Rodas, number 17, one of the top young players in the team. Scored a goal in Game 2 versus Costa Rica. As much as we talk about the veterans on the Guatemala side with players like Funes and Rodas, some young stars on the rise. They play it back out. Hooked in and off Perez, who was closely marked by Jimmy Banks. Windeschmidt into space. Murray beats his man, and he did a great job of keeping it in, and they're going to say it was last touch anyway by Guatemala. I thought it went off Murray, but apparently not. But that was a nice job to keep it in, not allowing it to go out.
Well, both Murray and Eichmann can turn and dribble and beat players, and that's what you like to see in good attackers. Not that they're one-dimensional, but that they can do a number of things. Here he goes wide open now. Is Eichmann. Well, as we say it, he turned outside, expecting the ball to be played on the other side of him, and therefore got caught on the turn. Didn't handle it very well.
Eichmann more of a midfielder. That's where he played at Clemson, but Bob Gansler, when he coached the World University game, had Eichmann up front, so he wasn't afraid to put him there, and Eichmann was very successful in that Marlboro Cup. Had some chances to score, but it was the way he helped to hold the ball up front. That's been a quality that's been missing, quite honestly, in some of the previous U.S. games. Ball knocked out by Guatemala. Coming up tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, the Grand Prix of Canada here on ESPN. And in some respects, this is a Grand Prix of soccer, although that won't really take place until 1990 in Italy. But these two teams want there desperately. Off a deflection, it comes back, and here's Guatemala. Coming back, Rodas with room. Ramos tries to close him. Far side, Chacon can crack him. Bliss is there to block it before Funes gets there.
Yeah.
They dodged the bullet that time.
And Funes was the player who released that ball initially in the clearance with a terrific volley out of the back over to Rodas, and then almost made one of those 80-yard runs to get into the penalty area and try to get the return ball. So there you see the counter-attacking possibilities of Guatemala as they concentrate on just absorbing pressure from the U.S. and then trying to break out on the counter. It is warm and humid here, but I think it didn't worry the Guatemalan players that much.
Ramos for Hart. Nice fake. Listening for Murray. Beats his man. And he tried to send it up top. It looked like far post, and it was just too high. But again, Murray has done so much every time he has touched the ball today.
And Hart, there's Murray in your picture, but give credit to John Hart there, who really did so well, in a difficult situation to lose his player and spot Murray with that, and then hit him with that soft pass.
Coming back is Funes. Guatemala to midfield. A 1-1 tie. 34:50 to go. Second half unofficial time. Pritchard breaks it up for Eichmann. And now Brian Bliss on the left. Again, it's Eichmann. Put the ball in his face. He wanted Caligiuri, but that one got away.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to squeeze that one through.
All the way across.
Good ball.
How about that for a reverse from Rodas? Just the vision, never mind the pass.
Yeah.
Spotting a player open that far away. On the right side of the field, it was knocked out of play.
Funes with a lovely turn there, flicking the ball up in the air and trying to get around after. Funes has really impressed me, JP, the number 10 player for them. Dangerous midfield player who set up the goal with a nice soft pass to Chacon, whose every touch has got a little bit of style and class as well.
Brian Bliss will send it back. Murray and Mazariegos. Here's Murray again. Bruce Murray on the attack, joined by Hart and Eichmann.
Oh, good
nice
tackle.
Comes back the other way. Rodas made the pass. It was Monzon who made that tackle. One of the better defenders in all of Guatemala. Team captain as well. Lifted the other way, but Pritchard bangs it out. Hart.
Good turn by Hart.
Murray, and again, John Hart. Ooh. Murray did everything he could to win that ball and keep it in the U.S. hands. Eichmann, chase back. Caligiuri. Long for Hart. It's too long.
Not a good ball again by Paul Caligiuri, hitting a 35, 40-yard pass. Not with the accuracy that you would like to see from a player such as Paul.
U.S. bench concerned, naturally. A 1-1 tie here.
Good move by Jimmy Banks there, doing what you must do against a good player like Perez, that is getting in front of him and intercepting the pass. So it's a foul by Ceballos.
Ramos was spun around there. Not as physical, is it, at the start of the second half as it was in the first half, but again, we had an inordinate number of fouls, with 28 fouls, 17 for the U.S., 11 for Guatemala. Hopefully that settles down here. Eichmann trying to feed his man to the corner. Knocked out, but a corner kick coming up.
Yeah. Good move by Eichmann. That's what I was talking about a minute ago, his ability to look up, see if he's isolated, even with his back to the player, and then turn and try to take him on, almost outpacing him, but a good tackle at the last minute by Ortiz.
Eichmann will be putting it in play. He'll take these corners from this side. Ramos will take them from the other. All the way across, Pitcher in the air. And it will sail harmlessly out of play. With 31:55 to play unofficially in the second half, we're still in a 1-1 tie. Your time remaining up top is unofficial, 31:16 to play. It's a 1-1 tie. Guatemala with the ball. A rocket is stopped by Vanoli at the short side of the goal. He'll throw long for Caligiuri. Both players with UCLA background. Now Eichmann back for John Stollmeyer. U.S. scored at 2:08 of the first half. Their first goal scored in World Cup qualifying play by a forward, and they have been silent since, at least goal-wise. Coming back is Ortiz to Monzon. And you may start seeing Guatemala play with a little more ball possession. Maybe not this early, but certainly with the clock running down in the latter stages, they'll want to go for the tie if they can.
Good move by Harks, almost winning it. John Harks, just a tireless player. One of the 4 players, by the way, from New Jersey on this squad. 2 starters and 2 substitutes.
Harks has drawn some rage, too, all along from head coach Bob Gansler with his steady play. Played collegiately at the University of Virginia. We've got a foul. Bliss appears to be hurt. Brian Bliss is down. The Southern Connecticut State College player. Rich Reel, the trainer now for the U.S. national team, coming out to take a look at Brian Bliss. 29 minutes and 45 seconds still to play unofficially in the second half. It's still a 1-1 tie.
Well, Brian Bliss, you see maybe what happened to him here. He got a boot on the side there and is having to hobble off. I don't think they're going to substitute for him because I think they feel he can recover. No, he's not going to go off. He's just trying to get into it, but he certainly was hit pretty hard by Chacon.
Ball played into the penalty area. Vanoli off his line. U.S. down to 1 substitute. You're allowed 2, and presumably it would either be Gabara or Burmese who would come in.
Yeah,
probably Gabara if they took Bliss out there, unless they wanted to change formation a little bit. Gabara more of a midfield player than Burmese. Windishman now to Eichmann. Caligiuri. Again, it's Eric Eichmann as the Guatemalans respond defensively.
Yeah.
A 1-1 tie here, and they're all over the ball.
They're all over the ball, and they do very well sending players in numbers up to try to dispossess or outnumber the U.S., confine them to a certain part of the field, and win the ball early, and they've done a good job doing that in this second half. Well, you see, this is why this game is so important. U.S. would only have 4 points out of 4 games if this ends up with a tie. Guatemala has 3 points out of 3 games, but the U.S. has got 3 games on the road coming up, so they've got to get some points and goals at home.
Well, Peter Burmese is warming up on the sideline as we have an infraction. Linesman had his flag up, but there's also a handball.
Yeah.
Well, if they put Burmese in, they might just use an extra forward, or, of course, Eichmann could drop back. There's a lot of things they could do with the versatile type players that they have out there on the field. And, actually, Burmese may not be coming in for Bliss, because Bliss is still out there. So we'll wait and see. Still a 1-1 tie as Stollmeyer sends it along. Murray chasing it down. 26:57 to play. Second half. U.S. team still with some injuries, hoping to get Perez back, Hugo Perez, for the El Salvador game. In El Salvador, they may get Rick Davis back for that as well. At least they're trying to target those players for a return as early as that July 9th game. Brent Goulet out with a sprained ankle, suffered in a Western Soccer League game. Played up on the right side now to Caligiuri. In the 1-1 tie, was playing left to Murray, who broke the other way. Stollmeyer trying to slip around his man. And much like in basketball, Seamus, when you trap a player that has the ball, we're seeing the Guatemalans support very well. When a ball comes somewhere in somewhat of a dangerous spot, there's help on the way.
Yeah, no, they're playing a very intelligent game right now. They're just waiting and crushing things defensively and hoping for a counterattack to seal a win, maybe.
Ball played to Funes. Great move. He wanted it back. Perez couldn't deliver. Now Funes got a piece. Rodas now to Chacon. And that was almost the break that they were looking for right there. Almost the break that they wanted.
Well, they do look dangerous around the edge of the box. They can do that combination play quite well, but the U.S. has been really has been equal to this so far, been able to get their feet in and so forth, but Triptu trying to do a little bit too much perhaps there, but instead of just being more direct at getting it out. And then eventually Chacon fouls Bliss, and the U.S. wins it back.
Stollmeyer made a nice play, actually, blocking Funes. Not sure where Vinoli was on that, but Funes was certainly in a dangerous position with a powerful right foot very close to Vinoli.
Paul Caligiuri still, in my mind, not looking as sharp as I would have expected. Pass is just a little bit off the mark. He's trying to play himself into the game. He's playing, I don't know, I would guess it's an unfamiliar position. I'm not sure about that, but he's playing not so much the midfield is unfamiliar, but that midfield down the flanks may be more unfamiliar. And when you're playing with the confinement of a line on your side all the time, a white line, it sometimes really takes something out of your game.
Caligiuri did well to win that one in the air. Now to Ramos. Ramos, he can go out of bounds. The ball can't. Nice job. Eichmann slipped. That was almost trampled over. Does well to help win it for Stollmeyer. To Ramos. Ramos will let them kick it out. He'll have to throw in.
So cool to have Ramos. Nice to see. No panic. Just draws the throw in. See if Stollmeyer can find Murray with his throw in.
Stollmeyer's throw. Wanted Murray. It's blocked. And a good bounce there for Guatemala. As they bring it back on the right side. Coming back the other way, John Stollmeyer. Edwin Westphal is warming up on the sideline. Presumably he will be coming on for Guatemala. Stollmeyer quickly to Murray. Almost beat his man, and then he went down as he hit Monzo.
Yeah, Murray with a rather amateurish piece
draw
of theater there. That's,
well, he would have opened up the bad acting score if he had won that call. 23-28 to play, second half. And the U.S. in a 1-1 tie. There's Peter Vermees from the New Jersey area. Ready to come in, and Westphal the other way. Loosening up. In fact, there's another player on the Guatemalan side, but he's got a warm-up top on, so he can't see who that is on that sideline. But it might be Paniagua, or Dan Paniagua, a veteran who can score some goals. That would be an interesting player move. Bliss couldn't stop his man. It's played into the box for Rodas. And two players collided, or else Guatemala might have had a 2-1 lead.
Rodas and Chacon there, but referee apparently stopped play because of an offside violation or something called over there. I mean, a dangerous play, I think, against
something.
Yeah.
They brought it back. Here's Eichmann. Now to Murray. Trying to go outside. His left footer, though, is blocked.
Corner kick. Corner kick.
Corner kick coming up. And the U.S. national team now with a threat. They want to get Vermees in if they can. We have an injury down in the field.
Yeah,
is it Rodas?
I can't
Rodas
tell
or
from here.
Chacon were in there. Chacon is back in his position. I believe it's Rodas who is down beside the goal, and there's a shot of him. I believe it to be Rodas.
Meanwhile, there's a corner kick.
Corner kick coming up on the opposite side of the field. And here it comes for Triptu. Harris was out. That's empty. Eichmann shot. Goal! Eichmann!
Well, it wasn't pretty, but that doesn't matter. It didn't even hit the back of the net. It just got over the line. And Eichmann, working hard all day, is the man of the moment because the keeper cannot get this corner. should have been able to get it, but Fisher with a great challenge, and Eichmann with the touch, headed off the line, and then off the defender and in. I think that, yes, it went off the defender. A defender on the line knocked it out and hit his own man on the back and went back in over the line. Now, Eichmann may get credit for the goal, but in all fairness, he shouldn't, because it was a Guatemalan player who put it in. They're hoping to get a push call or something like that on the Guatemala side, but nothing doing.
Tritcher wins that ball so well, though, in the air. When the goalkeeper comes out, he's got to get it. That's his ball, and when he didn't, that was a dangerous spot. Presumably, though, what were there? 3 blue-clad jerseys in goal. You thought that they might have had it covered.
Yeah, well, they did have it covered, but they botched the clearance. And here you see a good challenge by Tritcher. Here's the shot. Now, watch the clearance. The header into the back of the defender and then goes in behind the other defender, and you see it dropping behind the line there. No question it's a goal, but it should not be a goal given to an American player, because it was not scored by an American player.
Ortiz hit it off the back of McDonald. 2-1. U.S. has the lead, and now let's see how they play with that lead. There is still 20 minutes and change to go here in the second half, and that might mean that the substitution that is about to take place on both sides could be changed.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, my reading is maybe that Eichmann was going to come out and Vermes stay in, but Vermes come in, but I could be wrong there. I would hate to see Eichmann come out, because he is dangerous on the ball, and as you said, JP, he can help out in midfield.
We still see the Guatemalan players warm up, but my point about their substitution might be before Paniagua might have been in, sort of to give them some extra punch up front. Now they need him to score a goal. U.S. leads 2-1 in the second half. Back to the live action. John Hart leading the attack for the U.S. On the left side, he wanted Eichmann. Eichmann couldn't get there in time.
Yeah, John can't believe he mishit that ball. I looked like he just had worked so hard to make the run, to fight off a defender, that he just sort of stabbed at the pass and didn't do his normal good job.
Guatemala with it.
Well, they have officially given the goal to Eichmann from Trichu and Ramos. That's a little bit of imaginative scoring, if you will, since none of those 3 players had scored a goal.
On the right side, it's Murray. Held all the way, but undetected by the referee. He is throwing anyway. The U.S. will have the ball. They were going to put Vermes in, presumably, to try and get the go-ahead goal. But now, if they make any kind of a substitution, it may be a different kind of substitution in terms of how they can best protect the lead, and that's not necessarily going into any kind of a defensive mode. It might be just bringing in someone that can hold on to the ball. Or maybe no substitution at all. Watch out for Eichmann to the right. Trying to beat his man Ortiz. Block. Ortiz got his hand on it. Corner kick anyway, and Eichmann a little bit upset at Mr. Ortiz. But as they change each other's hairstyles a little bit, some good sportsmanship, we'll have a corner kick.
Speaking of hairstyles, our 4th official today, Angelo Bratches, is a hairdresser, and in fact, counts as one of his customers, believe it or not, my mother. You thought there was nobody in our household who had a hairstyle.
I was wondering where you were going with that. Speaking of hairdressers.
There are 10,516 people here today, which is a very good crowd indeed, in this lovely little park here in Connecticut.
Okay, they don't have 10,516 seats. There's a lot of people standing. Sold out for weeks. Eichmann on the corner. Perez came out, one-handed it away. Ryan Blitz awkwardly sending it back. Caligiuri was in the air, but Guatemala may get this back to Cohn with high foot, I thought, in front of Stomar. The play goes on. Rodas was apparently okay. Last look we saw him, he was at the side of the net and comparing out Caligiuri.
Gordon Smith is really making some unfortunate decisions here, not because they go against the U.S., because there was a player who just simply fell over Caligiuri as Caligiuri tried to...
and now some more theatrics the other way. Ortiz put his hand up in front of Eichmann, and now Caligiuri comes over, and Murray pushed. I think that Gordon Harrison may have seen that. He pushed Chacon, and if that's all he saw, he'll probably give him a yellow card.
Well, both number 4 and Murray should be carded here, if not red carded. The number 4 player, Ortiz. This is a totally unnecessary event. It was predictable maybe in the first 10 minutes, but unnecessary now. Jimmy Gabarra warming up on the sidelines for the U.S. The player who was hit on the United States team was number 10, Eric Eichmann. Referee's got to give a couple of warnings here.
Why is he giving Eichmann a card? Is that mistaken identity? I thought that Ortiz put his hand in Eichmann's face. Maybe not hard, but he may have perhaps gouged him or right about the eye area.
Well,
I don't think it was that physical so much as he caught a piece of him in the eye.
No, he's got to give Ortiz a card. He couldn't possibly not give Ortiz a card, surely. I don't believe it.
Well, then he didn't see it.
It was right in front of him. He had to...
He couldn't have seen it.
That's unbelievable.
Ortiz, long ball, Vinoli. Shot almost came out too far, and he got bumped. I'll tell you what, Gordon Ellis is going to get that whistle going.
Well, I'll tell you
it's starting
something else.
to break up.
The United States players have got to show us now a little bit of composure, both in the face of physical intimidation and in the face of one of those 2-1 leads. That one-goal lead that has been such an adventure for them in these World Cup matches. They got to show us a little bit something here. There, so that's what we like to see. Composure. Good move by Murray, but I think the other thing is they got to avoid losing their temper. Murray clearly lost his temper. Should have been carded and wasn't. And Vinoli has got to be ready for some intimidation at the other end. And he's got to keep his cool down there.
Coming back now, Felix McDonald, who, unfortunately for him, had the ball go off of him into the net for a USA goal. 2-1, U.S. national team leading.
Guatemala understandably upset there because Jimmy Banks, from our viewpoint, 100 yards away, looked as he handled it. Referee 20 yards away said no. And there you see Murray looking as though he's in a bit of pain. In the lower back area, he's getting some help. But here we have now, it's the classic situation that we wondered about with this team. 14 minutes ago, a one-goal lead. And let's see what they've learned from their last experiences in this situation.
Now it's Perez, forced back by Banks. 13:54 to go. Second half, and the U.S. leads it 2-1. They're credited Eichmann with that last goal. And the substitutes are ready to come on when they can. For Guatemala, it's going to be Westphal and Paniagua. Paniagua is the player to watch. Foul on Banks for the U.S.
Yeah, Banks forced to foul Byron Perez, who's been quite out of the play, but who is a player who can come back and kill you, as you mentioned, JP, in an instant. Substitutes warming up. Let's see if they're going to get him in here. Angelo Bratsich, the fourth official I mentioned a moment ago, and 17 goals going out. Levity, his other profession. He's trying to get the referee's attention.
Is that levity? I thought you were just trying to give him a plug. Well, let's see if they can get the attention of the official.
No, they have not. Now it's a dangerous situation here,
especially with number 11.
Perez can bend these things around the wall. Vinoli pacing anxiously on the goal line. Here comes.
Soft touch. Quick shot, and that goes up and over the goal. So that's not quite what Cervelos wanted. So, with this break, the U.S. still leads it 2-1 with 12 and a half minutes to go in the second half. As we come back, Rodas and McDonald come out. Westphal and Paniagua come in. And Paniagua is clearly the player to watch. Scored some important goals in the Olympic and World Cup qualifying games. 33 years old, also brings some experience to that front line.
Well, Guatemala got nothing to lose here except send forward players forward. There's coach of the U.S., Bob Jansen, not happy with that loss of possession. They really need possession. Here's Chacon.
Oh, great recovery by Bliss, but walking in, almost scoring. But Vinoli made a great save. Westphal on his first touch of the ball. He can't believe it. That's Vinoli at his vintage best.
Well,
right
it
there.
also came, though, from mistakes in midfield with a very bad giveaway. Chacon with a good first touch, a challenge by Bliss, but here's the shot for this new player just in at Westphal. And the U.S. can once again thank Vinoli, who has saved them many times in the past. Here we'll see what started it. You see the ball given away here between Ramos and Stolmeyer. And then the counterattack set up very nicely by Guatemala. And there you see what happened at the end. A good ball in. You'll see Chacon coming in from the right. Actually, Bliss did get the foot in there, setting up Westphal, and the block by his feet by Vinoli, and then the scrambled away situation that resulted in a near miss for Guatemala as they trailed 2-1 with now 10 and a half minutes approximately to go in this game.
Bliss made a great recovery. Unfortunately, it ended up on the foot of Westfall, but he came back. It looked like Bliss was beaten, clearly, and then came back. Now Westfall almost became an instant hero for Guatemala. Banks, good read, and he cut it off.
Yeah, good read indeed by Jimmy, touching it away a little bit anxiously maybe when he saw he had done the first part of the job. But it's all Guatemala in terms of possession, and that's not what the U.S. wants.
On the right side, this is Paniagua.
Another foul.
Well, we've got less than 10 minutes to go, but we know that that is not the official time. The referee has stopped his watch for a couple of injuries and that little bit of an altercation that we saw when a couple of yellow cards were issued. So there is probably more than 10 minutes to go.
Brian Bliss, JP, Brian Bliss looks a little fatigued to me. He's sort of bending over there to try to get a second wind, and I see Guevara warming up, as we mentioned before, and John Doyle.
Perez, I'm not sure what he was trying to do with that one, but it goes well wide. Maybe looking for someone at the far post. Turned out to be a cross between a shot and a pass, and it goes wide. U.S. national team with a couple of goals here. They lead it 2-1 over Guatemala, and one of their problems has been holding a lead and really holding the ball. And those are some of the things that we'll have a chance to see if the U.S. has improved on in the past couple of weeks. They've worked certainly very hard at it in practice. Played across for Perez, and Banks did well to win that one in the air. As it goes out of play, Banks is in there as a starter in the back with Marcelo Balboa, who has been playing there, playing recently with another U.S. team in France. It just recently finished out there. Long ball played in. Hart's got a piece. Another corner's going to be given up. Another corner kick. So the U.S. national team still with that 2-1 lead and 8:20 to go in the second half. Mistakes must be kept to a minimum. One mistake here could kill you. Right now it's crunch time.
And we're thinking a little bit of our player of the game. And for the U.S. side, it's going to be a little hard to pick. Murray, of course, has done so well. It's had a very good game. And Eichmann with the pressure for the go-ahead goal. Here's the corner.
Played in, and Stolmeyer will head it away. Ramos got a piece. Davila is there. Ball belongs to Guatemala. On the quick throw-in, Windishman will head it away. And another throw-in for Guatemala.
Yep.
Well, the U.S. doesn't want it in this end for the rest of the time, and there's still plenty of time. 7:40, that's unofficial time. There's been some injury time added on. Doyle warming up on the sidelines now. Guevara is not. John Doyle very strong in the air, very physical. That might be what Bob Gansler is looking for in this situation. We'll find out. Funen. For Chacon, who heads that one in. Benoli has no trouble stopping that one in the area. Westfall will give him a little chase. Unofficial time. We're approaching 7 minutes to play. Second half. Again, in the World Cup qualifier, there is no overtime. So once 90 minutes are up, that is it. And the U.S. would love to have this result in the 2 points for confidence and for the standings, because they'll play the next 3 all away from home.
Well, that long goalie clearance looks satisfying for about 5 seconds, but Guatemala gets the ball right back. It doesn't really help you very much. The U.S. players not chasing it. They're trying to preserve a little bit of energy.
Going back the other way. Chacon playing it in. Wanted Perez, and that doesn't get there. Cleared up the other way by Eichmann. And now Guatemala coming back. Stolmeyer will block that. All the way back. Perez may have gotten a step on Banks, and Banks with a recovery. A throw-in coming up, but Jimmy Banks did a good job. He was beaten by Perez. That's good second effort on Banks' part.
A nice piece of sportsmanship, too, between both of those players. After that incident, that's nice to see Perez and Banks respecting each other.
They want Doyle in for Brian Bliss.
Yeah, I thought Bliss was really struggling in the last few minutes.
So clearly a defensive substitution with John Doyle. And with Doyle and Trichu there together in the back, presumably it'll be tough for Guatemala to win much in the air. So Doyle will come in from Brian Bliss. Bliss, a local player because he played at Southern Connecticut State College. Gets a nice hand as he comes on. John Doyle plays for San Francisco. The Blackhawks of the Western Soccer League. Played collegiately at the University of San Francisco. On the throw-in.
Corner kick.
Netted out, so there's a corner coming up.
Well, Murray may be a candidate for our player of the game. Jimmy Banks has had a very good game. Really effectively playing Perez out of this game, and that might have been a more important contribution than just about anything, since Perez is a match winner himself. But with 5 minutes to go, Mr. Perez may not be finished for the day.
Well, let's hope from a U.S. standpoint that he is as he sends it in. Bernoulli came out, two hands, punched that one away. Good save for Bernoulli. And now we've got another whistle sounding.
Throw in. The ball has gone out of bounds. And Guatemala wastes time here.
Don't forget, coming up following this game, the Ohio Derby, next on ESPN. Guatemala trailing 2-1 with the ball.
Perez.
Banks will chase him wherever he goes at this point.
Here comes the crowd saying USA, USA. There's Bruce Murray winning the ball. Very good win by Bruce Murray.
Caligiuri to midfield. And now on the left side, John Hart takes it. Broken up in the last moment by Funes. Hart stays with him, drives the stride, and then pulls him down. And then I think Funes may have hit him. Is that a red card from the far side of the field? Well, Gordon Smith saw that. When I saw Hart going down, I presume that Funes hit him.
That's right.
I don't know where or how he hit him, but he hit him.
And while he was down, Ortiz also hit him for good measure. And U.S. players got to get the hell out of there as quickly as possible because they really are getting themselves into trouble.
Did you see Jerez pushing Eichmann back and forth? And now Windisman came in and I think told Eichmann, back off, let's go. And that's what Windisman's doing, the team captain. And he better do that by example because if he's got a couple of guys that are still hot, somebody with some coolness and some wisdom about him has to get the players back, and why not the team captain? We may get a better shot here.
Well, the challenge by Hart makes the tackle, good tackle, and then you see the punch. Yeah, pretty obvious punch. And, you know, you get caught doing that, you should be thrown out of the game. I don't care whether you're a Guatemalan or American. It's automatic, I think, to dismiss players when they start throwing punches.
We're very far. We're completely across the field, but I saw Hart's head go back. I knew he got hit, but I didn't know which part, whether it was a leg that came up or an arm, but you knew right there on the replay. That was pretty obvious. That was very obvious in the replay.
Well, now we'll get another look at it here.
Boom.
Pretty obvious. Right in front of the referee, too. Not a very good choice for that particular sucker punch. So, but at this stage of the game, being reduced to 10 players really doesn't matter that much because you're going to be throwing every available player forward anyhow to try to tie it up.
And if the U.S. has a good memory, they'll remember last year against El Salvador when 2 players were ejected, and El Salvador played better than the U.S. when they had 9 players. So if their memory is good, they'll remember that game in Indianapolis. Coming back, Guatemala. That's unfortunate, too, for Funes, who has shown what a skilled player he is. And to see the skilled players go out for that kind of a foul always bothers him.
Well, here's Perez coming back now to try to do something. This is a good move by Byron Perez. There's an offside call.
Paniagua was guilty there. Well, the Guatemalans try to get the U.S. players off their game, have them lose their poise, but tell you what, the U.S. players backed off, and there could have been real problems out there in the field, and there still might be, actually, as Wintersman is jawing with Paniagua. There's still to be some problems out there, but for now, up to this point, you've got to give the U.S. credit, full marks for being able to avoid getting into that situation. Funes is red-carded. If Hart retaliates the same way, he's gone, too.
Wintersman needs to get something good on this one now, so you can find somebody up front, like Eichmann.
Clock shows a minute to play.
But there's more than that,
yes, there is. How much more? Only Gordon Smith knows. And he's down on the field. Right side, Guatemala. Davila was looking for Paniagua. Trickster had slowed him down to foul him.
Yeah. Well, it's a good idea to try to get the ball to those fresh legs in the form of Paniagua, number 9. or number 7, Edwin Westfall. But the U.S. now fighting with 30 seconds to go officially, but probably about 3 minutes, I guess, left. Got to be careful here. Comes Vanoli.
And he got that one in midair. David Vanoli, aggressive off his line. And after giving up what I think even what David would consider to be a questionable goal in that first half of play, he had settled down and stopped what I thought was his best save by far, the point-blank shot from Westfall, maybe about 8 yards, 10 yards away from him.
That's really silly play by Guatemala here, trying to harass the goalkeeper. Vanoli is number 9, Paniagua, and all he's doing is just killing the clock, which is the last thing he wants to do. So it's really a mindless piece of play by Paniagua.
Yeah, by a veteran player. Got to know better than that. Vanoli, tell you what, he just ate up about 20 seconds there after Paniagua was taunting him.
Yeah, the clock has now officially run out, but we got some time to play here. Everybody going forward, including Monzon, the big defender, and Guatemala on the attack, trailing by a goal.
That might have been a critical 20 seconds to waste, though. Better than 10-5 on hand in New Britain. Into the penalty area, Vanoli was bumped. Loose ball, and Pritchard bangs it out. I don't know whether Vanoli was bumped by one of his own players or someone from Guatemala, but he was bumped.
Yeah, he was watching the ball all the way, not thinking his way through. It's another good cross, Doyle up there.
And that's what he does best. He did it against Canada in the Olympic qualifiers. Eichmann coming out, Jerez going after it. Jerez wanted to take the throw in, it looked like.
Sure, why not?
He knows time is running down.
Stolmeyer is selling himself a bit, but putting some pressure on.
U.S. still looking for the 2 points in the victory. It's played back to Vanoli. And he'll go down and smother that ball, protecting it against the ground.
Nice heads-up, cool play by Bruce Murray. Heading that ball back, Bruce Murray has done some good things defensively here for the U.S. Of course, getting the first great goal.
You know what, I think if you're looking for players in the game, Murray's got to be there, but I like the way Banks has played, as you mentioned before. And he'll send this one out of there. Jimmy Banks very much unheralded. He's been on this team before, but this is the most prominent role that he has played. Played back into the area. Vanoli and Doyle almost ran into each other. Played back to midfield.
Oh, but who's calling for that ball?
If anyone was.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a high foot.
Eichmann almost found out the shoe size of Davila. Or Ortiz, number 4.
Referee looking at his watch.
Long ball played. We're down a second. Aerosmith with a whistle. That's it. The U.S.